Good morning, everyone, and thank you for spending a little bit of time with us on what I think is going to turn out to be a really nice Saturday and hopefully start of a wonderful weekend, even though we're still sort of under house arrest. But anyway, my name is Bill Simone. I'm the president of Custom Design and Construction. And also with me this morning, we have our Director of Design, Beth Rubin, who will be speaking with you just a little bit later on in the presentation.
Good morning.
Just a couple of housekeeping things. If you could just grab a piece of paper and a pen, we're going to be going through a little bit of a remodeling exercise shortly, and I want you to be able to jot down some of your responses to that. And then also, as we go through the presentation, if you could just maybe jot down some questions that you might have, or maybe even type them into the box. We'd like to address those at the end of our session here today. So with that, I just want to run through. That's a picture of me, and that's Beth in the other photo. And with this, I want to start with our agenda for today. So we're going to talk a little bit about why we're all here. Do that in a moment, and then we'll switch gears and talk about how can I go about tackling a remodeling project at my own home. Kind of the nuts and bolts of all that. And then we'll look at some licensing and insurance, I guess, requirements in some cases, and what to look for and what to look out for. Then Beth will walk you through our process. How do you get from, sort of point A, that this idea of trying to think about doing a remodeling project to, point B down the road with a completed project and one that you're happy with. And then at the end, as I say, we'll try to address any questions that you might have. So why are we all here? Well, you folks are probably thinking about some sort of a remodeling project. Maybe you need a little bit of extra space for, a variety of different reasons, or maybe you're just tired of the old and the outdated. And why are we here today? Well, oftentimes when we speak with folks like you, we often hear things like, we don't even know where to begin. We're frustrated with what we've been living with. We're overwhelmed with the amount of choices that are available today. And we're really sort of unsure of where to turn for help, and we're worried about maybe some of the contractor horror stories that you've seen or maybe even heard or experienced in the past, and you just don't want yourself to fall victim or your family to any of that kind of stuff. So the intent here today is to hopefully share some light on this whole idea of remodeling. And our purpose is really to provide you with some information and really a strategy to ensure that your project becomes really what you expected it to be from the beginning. So that's kind of why we're all here today. With that, I want to talk to you a little bit about sort of a phenomenon that everybody will experience through the course of a remodeling project. If anyone on the call has actually gone through a remodeling project in the past, it may, sort of bring back some thoughts and feelings and emotions of how things kind of unfolded through the course of the project. We call it remodeling fever. Essentially what it is the emotional roller coaster that folks go through the different stages of a remodeling project. If you have emotions on the vertical scale and timeline on the horizontal scale, at the early onset of the project, your emotions are obviously very, very high. I mean, it's fun, it's exciting. You're looking at different, layouts for your home. You're picking materials. You're thinking about how, traffic patterns flow through the space, how you furnish the space, how you bring in, not just natural light, but all the different layers of artificial lighting. And you're very involved in that process. And once all those design decisions are made, we have to take those concepts and convert them into what's called working drawings or construction documents. A lot of times people refer to them as blueprints. But anyway, the documentation that has to go to the building department for their review and approval. And at that point, you're sort of out of the loop a little bit, and it takes some time. And we have a very, very good reputation with all the local municipalities around here. And we know, kind of who to talk to, more importantly, how to talk to them, to move your project through all their internal departments without really kind of, stepping on anyone's toes in the process of all that. But nevertheless, your emotions kind of fall off because it does take some time to get through that phase of the project. Once the building permits are issued, then boy, your emotions come up quickly. We hold what we call our pre-construction conference. That will elaborate more on that in a little bit, but that's sort of the kickoff meeting for the construction phase of the project. And then, you know, the things happen pretty quickly. I mean, you go to work in the morning and, you know, your old kitchen is gone when you come home, or the back of the house is torn off and the roof is peeled back, and we've started laying the forms for the foundation. And then over the next couple of days, you know, the framing goes up and you're thinking, geez, at this pace, they're going to be done in 6 weeks. Well, that's not the reality of it either. I mean, those things are very visual events during the course of the project, and you see big steps, big changes of progress from one day to the next to the next. And then what happens is all the stuff that you don't see when the project is completed, all the stuff that's, you know, behind walls, up in ceilings, maybe under floors and crawl spaces, that stuff in a remodeling project is very tedious and very time-consuming work. And it takes, you know, an inordinate amount of time to do that. We're working with existing conditions, tying into existing systems. You know, lots of times floors and ceilings aren't always level and walls aren't always true and plumb, so we have to correct those kinds of things. And it just takes some time. And then we get into probably the toughest phase of the project, and that is, for any of you that have gone through a remodeling project in the past, that's the drywall phase. During that phase of the project, you know, we work very, very hard at dust containment. We're pretty good at it. We've been a beta test for a new product that actually eliminates a lot of the dust particulates, but inevitably dust will go into places that you didn't know you had. And we have to, you know, put the mud on the walls, we have to sand that, we have to do that, you know, at least 2 times, many times 3 coats of that stuff, and the sanding goes everywhere. But once we get through that phase, I mean, part of our job really is to kind of coach you through these different phases of a remodeling project, so that you kind of know when to expect what, so that you're not, you know, really sort of shocked or surprised by the next kind of steps of the project. But once we get through that phase, then all those decisions that you made early on in the project, those start to come into the house, all those product selections. They come into the house, and it really starts to look at like the home that you had envisioned at the end. We sort of, you know, kind of tie the ribbon on the project, tie the bow on it. And at the end, we like to have a little party for you to sort of show off kind of what you've gone through. It's a good little, you know, invite friends, family, coworkers, neighbors, whoever, kind of see the project. And it's a good little marketing tool for us, but it's kind of fun thing to do. I would assume that many of you have pets also. Well, pets, they kind of go through their own sort of ups and downs through the course of the project. Generally, they're kind of there at home. They have the run of the house typically, and then all of a sudden we invade it with a bunch of big, ugly, burly guys and break things apart before we put them back together. And it's a little unnerving, but then they get kind of used to having, you know, the company during the day, and it's sort of fun for them. And then their emotions kind of fall off at the end of the project when things sort of quiet down and they get a little lonely again. And sometimes they try to get involved and help us out even. And these are actual pictures of our clients' pets. That on the one on the right, the image on the right, actually tried to help on drywall day. And the little kitten on the left, that little guy got spooked and went under the house. We had to coax him out with a few extra treats that day. But anyway, the point is, the remodeling fever curve is very, very real, and it happens on every project. Doesn't matter if we do the project for you, if you do it yourself, or if you hire the guy standing on the street corner to do it. Everybody will go through this emotional roller coaster at some point through the course of the project. So anyway, with that, let's get into the meat of how do you go about tackling a remodeling project. This is where I'd like you to maybe pull out that piece of paper and the pen. And I'm going to go through a series of questions in the form of sort of a worksheet. At the end, I'd like you to score your answers. You'll see the questions here shortly, and each one of them has a number associated with an answer that sort of best fits where you fall on the scale. So if you could just jot those numbers down, we'll tally them up at the end and walk you through what my next steps be. So with that, why do you want to do the remodel? Is this something that just needs, some quick fix-up repairs, maybe limited to 1 or 2 items, or is it, more invasive, where everything's sort of out of date and you need kind of a maybe a cosmetic refresh? How long are you planning on staying in the property? Is this something that you'd like to stay in the home? You're preparing it for those golden years. How can you live in the home, longer and more safely? Do you need more space? Are you just simply out of elbow room? Is the existing floor plan, does it meet today's family's needs? Maybe you have enough space, but you kind of need to reconfigure what you have. So, the floor plan might be, maybe you want to take a wall out as you remodel the kitchen, create a great room. That's a pretty common project. So where do you fall along that scale of why do you want to do this remodel? Next question. What types of changes are you looking to make? Again, is this just sort of surface level cosmetic stuff? Just, maybe like a coat of paint, maybe some new flooring, something like that? Or is it a little bit more in depth where you're changing things like countertops, backsplashes? Maybe you're doing stuff on the exterior. You're changing windows, restuccoing the home, changing out, dry rot or termite-ridden siding, those kinds of projects. Or do you need to make better use of the existing space that you have? Again, this goes to changing family needs. Or is it just simply that you're on top of each other? You absolutely need to expand on the square footage of the home, be it, on the ground level, be it as a second-story addition or a 2-story addition, or whatever the case may be. Or is it a little combination of everything? Do you need to reconfigure the existing space that you have, add some square footage, upgrade some systems, do sort of a whole house type of a project? Next question. This project that you're thinking about, does it include, touching the systems of the home, the mechanical systems, the roofing, the furnace, the heating, the plumbing, the AC if you have it? What is the age of the home? Have those systems been upgraded, in the not too distant past? So along that line of thinking, is everything okay? Is everything in good shape? Do you actually need to maybe think about redoing furnaces, roofing, the exterior skin of the home, those kinds of things. Along with the reconfiguration of some of the systems, are you going to be adding to it? Are you going to be adding, additional plumbing fixtures? What does that do to the sizing of the existing system? How will that be affected? Will you be moving walls? Affected walls, a lot of times, they'll have electrical in them, or some even have plumbing chases. How will that be affected if you do actually remove a wall? Or you're just simply at the end of the line with everything. It's time for a complete, sort of redo of everything. Next is, what's the timeline? Is this something that you have, kind of a hard and fast completion date, like, an anniversary, a wedding, the birth of a child, a birth date, I don't know, any multitude of things. So where do you fall along this scale? You want it done immediately. It's got to be done yesterday. You're hoping to have everything done. You'd like to start soon and maybe have it completed, over the course of the next 3, 4, 5 months, whatever. Or you're in the phase of, well, sooner is better, but there's no real, sense of urgency to do it. You don't need to rush into anything. Or you just kind of want to make sure that it's done right. There's no sort of deadline for the project, but there is the need to make sure that it's done once and done correctly. And others are just, they're eager to get it going. They understand there's a process that it takes to get there, and you want to start that process, relatively soon. The next level Next question rather talks about your level of experience. You know, how involved do you want to be? You know, what do you have in terms of skill set and tools and stuff like that to be involved in the project? Do you want to do some of the work yourself? Some of our clients, you know, they want to do certain phases of the project, like, you know, some of them want to do demolition, others want to do, you know, maybe the painting. So what level do you want to do? You'd like to, some like, as I say, like to do the demo, others like to do other aspects. Maybe you have somebody that, you know, certainly knows how to do certain phases of the project and you'd like to have them involved. Or you like the idea of getting your hands dirty, but you really just don't have any experience and you need some guidance and some direction that way. Or you'd like to kind of share your input, offer your ideas and suggestions and solutions, but you know, you don't necessarily want any dirt underneath your nails. And some people are, you know, just wake me up when it's over. Here's the keys to my house. Call me when I can come back and start enjoying things again. So where do you fall along that question? Number 6. This is an interesting one. Do you have a vision? And what I'm talking about when I say do you have a vision is the end goal. What is really the end goal? Is that a fuzzy picture for you? Do you have a picture of it, or is it very, very clear and bright and you have, you know, a complete set of drawings and specifications and, you know, you're well on the way to getting this thing kicked off? Or you maybe have some general ideas, some concepts, but you don't really have any of the details worked out. But you're pretty solid on the direction. You kind of know what you want. Or a little further along the line, maybe you've got, you know, some pictures and magazines dog-eared, or today we use a website called Houzz. I don't know if you're familiar with that, Houzz. But you can bookmark a lot of photos, things that you like, things that you don't like. So you have a pretty good idea of what the outcome is going to be. But you have a general sense, and you have some thoughts, but you're really looking for some professional advice, and you'd welcome having some additional ideas maybe tossed around. Or lastly, you have some ideas, you know you want to do something, but you're really struggling pulling this stuff all together. You need some help and direction in doing all that. A lot of times we find that folks a lot of times don't exactly know what they want, but they have a pretty good sense, of what they don't want. And then we go to, lastly here, this is the last question. Would you classify the project more of a need or more of a want? A need is you kind of wish you didn't have to do it, but unfortunately you're sort of backed in the corner. You have to do the project. I can't tell you how many kitchens we've remodeled, simply because of a broken water line that led to an ice maker. Or nothing is really urgent, nothing's broken yet, but things have been around for quite a while, and the days are probably numbered with them. But we think the idea is kind of a cool idea. We know the house would be kind of better off for it. We know the family would be better off for it. Some folks are prompted by need, but they're really sort of been thinking about this for a while, and now, especially after being cooped up in the home for the last, I forget what it is now, how many days, 28 days or something now. You've been thinking about it even a little harder now. Or now it's just time. You've been dreaming about this, forever, and it's time to get started with the project. So if I could have you, excuse me, if I could have you kind of add up all your totals to those 7 questions, we'll go through a little kind of pyramid of where you fall in here. If you're in the 0 to 16 point range, maybe you don't need the services of a design build firm. You can probably complete your project, with maybe just a few trade contractors that you can coordinate one, and they really don't overlap in what the work process is. Or if you're in that middle range, that 17 to 25 point range, you might need a design build firm like us. You have some ideas, you have some direction, but you need some help of pulling them, a little bit into a little clearer focus. Or that last group, the 26 to 35 point range, you really need to be talking to a design build firm like us, because that's where you can get a lot of help and a lot of direction, and hopefully the project that you really had your heart set on. So thanks for going through that with me. I want to change gears a little bit here and talk to you about some tools that we have available so that you can kind of understand what you're looking at when you talk to a company. I'm going to run through how you can read and understand, more importantly, a contractor's license, what to look for, and kind of what to look out for. There's a website that's available. It's cslb.ca.gov. That's Contractor State License Board website. What you're seeing on the screen here is kind of a screenshot. If you searched us, this is what would pop up. There's a number of ways of searching contractors, and you got to be a little bit careful because a lot of times names are very similar. So you got to make sure you're looking at the right information for the company that you're actually thinking of partnering with. But if you know the license number, that's the easier way of doing it. For instance, you can see here, ours is 524561. If you can plug that number in, it'll take you right to kind of this page that you're seeing right now. One thing that a lot of the general public doesn't really understand about contractors' licenses, they're issued by the Contractors Board sequentially. So ours, 524561, was actually issued on February 16th, 1988. And today I know that they're issuing contractors' licenses in the 1 million over 100,000 range now. So this is sort of a head scratcher, but I'll see an advertisement somewhere that lists contractor's license because it's a requirement by contractors law, and it will say 20 years of experience or something like that. And I'll look at the license number and it's in the over the 1 million range. And math was never one of my strong suits, but I can do that a little bit and kind of scratch your head and find out what's going on there. A few other things that you can learn about. You can learn about the entity type, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and certainly when it was issued and when it expires. You can also learn about the license type. There's 3 classifications of contractors' licenses in California. There's an A license, which is the general engineering license. Entities that hold the A license are the ones that build roads and bridges and do major demolition projects, like tearing down, high-rise buildings, stuff like that. Then there's a B, a general building contractor's license, which we hold, that allows the holder of that license to do 3 or more unrelated trades. And then there's a C classification. The C classification is the trade classifications, the specialty classifications. I don't recall exactly. I think there's about a little over 60, 62 of them. And again, those are the trades, like plumbing, I believe, is C37, electrical is C18 or 19. Roofing has its own, framing has its own, concrete, insulation, glazing, painting, tile work, flooring. Every one of the trades has its own classification. And companies or entities that hold those specialty classifications are only legally able to contract for work for that one specific trade. So you got to be careful. Even though someone may have been around for a long, long time and they hold a specialty license, they're not able to contract for an overall remodeling project. So you just want to pay a little closer attention to that. You can find out information on the bond. If you look at you can look into the history of the bond. If you can drill into the history and see if there's been any claims made on the bond, if they stay with the bonding company or they jump from one company to the next year after year, you know, you can ask them rather why they're not you know, sticking with that company and building a relationship with them, why they're moving from one to the next. And you can do the same with the workers' comp. Everybody knows, I would assume everybody in this call knows that in California, if you have employees working on a project, you have to have workers' compensation for them. What most folks don't understand is if the company doesn't have workers' compensation and one of the workers becomes injured on the project, that the homeowner could be held liable for the injuries or in some cases the death of that worker. Some folks think, well, their liability insurance, their casualty insurance will cover that. Well, I would argue that you better double check with your agent, because most insurance policies exclude non-worker comp covered workers on the project, on the home rather. So pay close attention to that as well. So with that, let me toss this over to Beth. She'll walk you through it's a real simple 3-step process, and she'll talk you through how you get from kind of where you are thinking about a project to something completed down the road. Okay, Beth?
Great. Hope you guys are all hanging in there. You want to grab a snack or a drink? Anyways, I'm going to walk through our process. It tends to be a lot of process. It's a little complicated even when I'm in front of people, and so we're giving this a shot virtually. So if you have questions, like Bill mentioned, just kind of save your questions at the end. We'll do a little question and answer session, okay? So our process is broken down into 3 phases. I'll kind of run through each one briefly now, and then go into a little more in depth. First, we like to kind of get to know you. Generally, that's done with an in-home consultation. These days, we're doing things more virtually, doing FaceTime tours with clients. They're sending pictures and videos. We're kind of sketching back and forth, doing things like that. Really, the goal of that is to decide if we want to move forward and work together. And then we move into our discovery phase of the project, kind of exploring all the possibilities, seeing what's possible. We do that for kind of a flat design fee, which we can go through later as well. Once we decide what we're going to build, we're going to move into project development. There we ask for a 7% retainer on what we predict the budget range is going to be. And then our third phase is construction. So now I'm going to run through a little bit more in detail. Like I mentioned, our first step is in-home consultation, or these days, virtual consultation. We like to take a tour of the house, talk to you in depth about what you're looking to do, what you're trying to accomplish. We'll do a little budgeting exercise in this meeting. And again, like this meeting is meant to decide, are we a good fit? Does it make sense for us to move forward and start designing this project together? So now we've decided everything's great. We're going to move forward and start designing this project together, and we're going to enter into the discovery phase of the project. This starts with our site measure. So in our site measure, we're going to bring a lot of our team members out. Generally, I like to bring a production guy or two so they can, the goal is to get as many eyes on the house as possible, so that while we're designing, I don't design myself into trouble, which I tend to do a little bit, just to get the existing condition of the house. We're also going to create what's called an as-built drawing, and that's what you see here on the screen, kind of an example of a house that we measured. We're going to take a lot of pictures while we're there. We really want to see how you live in the home. We don't want you to clean up. I know for me, I like to clean up before the cleaning lady comes. Probably some of you do too, but we really want to see how you live in the home. So if there's always a pile of papers on the countertop, we want to know that when we redesign the kitchen space, we need to give you a place for mail or a charging station for your electronics, things like that. We're going to come back to our office. Internally, we're going to come up with a lot of different options for the project, and we try to narrow it down to really what we feel are the best 3 to present. Because typically we'll come into our design center and sit at our big conference table. Lately, I've been doing this virtually, much like what you're seeing now. We're going to go through the options, have a conversation with you, get a lot of your input. Our design process is very collaborative, so we do want input from you. And I found that for most clients, they like a little bit of each option. So we don't say here's option 1, 2, or 3, pick one. We really kind of massage and develop this into the design that you feel comfortable moving forward with. Along with the concept, each one of the options will have a budget range attached to it. For more simple kitchen bathroom projects, generally maybe a 5% spread in the budget range. For projects a little more complicated, we're adding a second story, generally about a 7 to 10% spread in the budget range. And again, the goal of this discovery phase is to give you enough information and for us to gather enough information to decide what project makes sense to move forward with. So now we've all decided we'll call it option 4A. We've kind of massaged those initial designs, come up with a design that you're happy with and an investment range that you're comfortable in, and we're going to move into this project development phase of this. And we do that for a retainer. It's a 7% retainer based on the budget range that we've established. So I'll do just for quick math, say the budget range for your project is $100,000 to $110,000, and we ask for a $7,000 retainer, and then that will apply towards the construction later. Really, we're just kind of all committing to the project at this point. We're going to take our conceptual design and start to create construction documents for it. So here you see kind of a final design. We're going to overlay mechanical, plumbing, electrical plans over this. We're going to do the fun stuff, product selection. We help you with all of that. Tile, plumbing fixtures, appliances. What color will the siding be on the outside of the house? What color are the switch plates on the wall? What kind of cabinet hardware are we going to do, tools or knobs? So we help you with all of that. We're also going to create some 3D renderings for you. So we're going to take all of those all the products that we've selected and import them into our software and create a pretty lifelike rendering. I have after pictures of this project as well. So when we get to the end, remember what these renderings look like. So it comes out pretty close. That's really a way for you to see the project before it's done. And these are some more renderings of that same space. We did a little guest bathroom and then an office area as well. We're also going to take all of this information now, the drawings, the product selections that we've done, and we're going to put it into a written form. We call that our project specifications. The only part of my job I really don't like. It's a lot to write and a lot to read. We feel, again, like it's another really good way to make sure we're on the same page, that what we're building is what you're expecting. For simple projects, kitchens or bathrooms, I'd say they 10 to 15 pages. I've written product specifications that are 50 to 60 pages as well. Now all that's left is for us to bring it to life for you. So our phase 3 is construction. That's based on a fixed price agreement. We take care of getting the permits for you from the city. You just reimburse us the cost, whatever the city charges for that. Jorge, our architectural designer, he has a lot of good relationships with the city workers around here, so he tends to be pretty effective at that. This all starts, I think Bill mentioned this earlier, with our pre-construction meeting. So this is kind of the official handoff from the design team to production. Now remember, you've met your, some production guys at that initial site measure. Generally, your project manager will be there as well. But this is kind of the official handoff. Your project manager becomes your main point of contact. The design team, we're here at the office, we're always available as well. But like I said, just that main point of contact move. In our pre-construction meeting, we're going to talk about a lot of things. We've been building projects for about 33 years now. So we have a lot of systems in place, but we also want to be sure that we're taking care of your individual needs. So things like, should we put a porta potty out, or do you have a restroom you prefer the guys to use? Where can they eat lunch? Can they play music? What are work hours? Can we work Saturdays? What are parking restrictions? Things like that. So we're going to go over all of this at the pre-construction meeting. Also at the pre-construction meeting, your project manager is going to present a very simple Gantt chart schedule for you. I always ask if there are engineers in the house, because their schedules for building rockets are much more detailed than our Gantt chart. So you won't know the level of detail that at 2 o'clock on Thursday afternoon, Ryan will be hanging your pendant lights, but you will know during this 2 to 3 day period, we'll be doing finished electrical. Another thing that you'll see on your Gantt chart schedule are weekly homeowner meetings. So we established this in that pre-construction meeting. We like to set a kind of same day of the week, same time every week, to have some dedicated face-to-face time to talk about the project. We know folks are busy, so we can do these virtually or, conference calls, things like that as well. But we really feel like it's important to have that dedicated face-to-face time. We get, I would say, about 2 weeks away from finishing the project. We create what's called our completion list. It's a live document. It lives in Google, like a lot of things do. And it's really a list of the items that we feel will complete the project. Like I said, it's a live document, so our clients have access to it as well. They can see as we complete things. For our clients that are living in the home, sometimes they'll notice something we didn't, so they can also add items to this. Really, the goal of this completion list is to kind of, the end of the project tends to drag on for, kind of what we've heard from clients. One of their fears is, oh, we got to the end of the project and they took forever to get out of my house. Our guys are all great and you'll get really attached to them, but inevitably at the end of the project, you're kind of ready to have your house back. And this is a tool that helps us make that happen more quickly for you. And then all that's left is for you to enjoy it. So this is that same kitchen that we did the renderings of. So came out pretty close. And there's that little office space and the guest bathroom as well. Great, so I think Bill's got a little more to chat with you. And again, like I said, if there are questions on the process, I know I went through it kind of quickly. At the end of this, we'll open up the chat box and we'll answer some questions.
Or feel free to call us directly too. Great. Okay, so thanks, Beth. Let's just talk a little bit about why some of our clients choose to do business with us. Well, we've been around for a long, long time. We were established in 1986, and as you saw from the page on the Contractors Board website, we incorporated in 1988. We have what we believe to be the strongest warranty in the industry. By the way, the current required warranty in California directed by contractors' state license law is, believe it or not, non-existent anymore. You do not have to provide a warranty with the work that you do currently. That changed a year ago. 2 years ago, it was 1 year, then it became 90 days, and now it's nothing. Ours is 5 years. We look at it more as, an investment with our client than anything else. This is all we do: residential design, build, remodeling. We don't do, commercial construction or tenant improvement work or anything like that. We have folks on our staff here that are certified in certain areas, different aspects of the project, be it project management, be it design, be it architectural design. And we're considered to be top, installation pros in this entire region here. We're members of every national organization that you can be. Many of us here have held both local and national executive levels with these institutions. NARI, N-A-R-I, is the National Association of the Remodeling Industry. NAHB is the National Association of Home Builders. And NKBA is the National Kitchen and Bath Association. We've won numerous awards. If you ever do get the opportunity to visit our design center, you'll see many, many awards around the space, not just for our designers' capabilities, but also for business professionalism and things like that. We are licensed. We do have liability insurance. Again, that is not a requirement in California. Ours is a $2 million policy. We're considered to be the developers of the design build process for sort of the southwest region of the United States. We're very friendly with a number of other companies around the nation in different parts that started about the same time as we did, and we've all sort of gotten together and we share best practices and things like that. So these are all the kind of design build founding companies. We handle everything from the initial design concepts of the project, as Beth was explaining, through all the product selections and navigating the building departments, getting the building permits issued, and then through the construction phase of the project. So we're we're the single source for the project. Everything's handled essentially under one roof. Those are some of the reasons why our clients choose to do business with us. Alicia Pokman told me to remind everybody that our next seminar is going to be a kitchen and bath specific seminar, and that's going to be on May 7th. And I forget what day of the week that is, but it's May 7th, and it's at 6 p.m. So I just wanted you to make note of that.
I think she's going to post the link in the chat box as well, and then she'll send in a little email to you as well.
Yeah, if anybody
want to join that.
Yeah, if anybody has any interest in that one. So with that, we can open it up to questions. We're available to answer anybody's questions that they might have. And Beth is pulling up the questions.
There we go. Got the chat box up. So if you have any questions, if you want to type them in, we can answer them now for you as well.
Or if you're more comfortable and you would prefer to speak, you can call us. The number is 310-815-4815. Yeah, we can cover up the.
We have our first question from Patrick. What we'll do is we'll read the question aloud, then just, I think, answer it aloud. So Patrick's question is, can you talk about the pros and cons of doing non-permit work? So Bill, I'll let you take that one.
Sure. Well, first of all, there's very, very few items that do not require a building permit. Simple things like painting, interior or exterior, floor covering, those kinds of things don't require building permits. Pretty much everything else does. We wouldn't take on a project that required a building permit without obtaining the building permit. It's just simply not. We've been around for 33 plus years now, and it's just not simply worth potentially losing a license over. That's from our standpoint. Now, from your standpoint, doing a project without a building permit is pretty dangerous in a couple of reasons. So, number one, you're assuming that whoever is doing the project for you is doing it correctly and to code and can ensure, the health and safety and welfare of the occupants of the home without having the eyes of a building inspector, a third party uninterested in the project, but just making sure that everything's done correctly. So you don't have that luxury. Secondly, if you ever do go to sell the home, and it's noted that there has been some work done on it, and the potential buyers will probably ask, how do you, show me the building permits. How'd you do this without a permit? And then you open yourself up to, probably price reductions. So I would say steer clear of doing any unpermitted work that would require a permit. What's the next question?
Next question is, Shannon, how are you managing construction projects through quarantine, and are there any restrictions?
Go ahead, Beth.
So that kind of differs, kind of varies depending on what city we're working in. I would say LA and Manhattan Beach have kind of the most strict rules out there. We do have to still maintain physical distancing, so the 6 feet, only allowed one trade at a time in some projects. Obvious things we have to post, all of the kind of social distancing and hygiene rules at the job site, posting, the normal, which I'm sure you've seen at all the stores. If you're not feeling well, if you have a fever, please don't come on the job site, things like that. We have to have all of the protective equipment for our employees there, so masks, hand sanitizer, gloves. But otherwise, it's pretty much business as usual. I mean, right now we have projects in production. Some of them, our clients are living and working in the home, actually, which makes it a little tough on them. And some where we actually don't have clients in the living in the home, but it hasn't seemed to really slow us down a whole lot.
Right, and the other side of that coin is we want to ensure that our clients also aren't infected. So we want to make sure that you guys aren't experiencing any kind of symptoms that would prohibit us from coming into the home as well. So we're a little cautious that way on both areas.
All right, next question is from Carly. What is high-level cost per square foot on expansion for a second floor? I'll let Bill take this one.
Okay, that's a tough one. There are so many variables in the cost per square foot. Typically, you can do cost per square foot on new construction. Generally, you're not going to find cost per square foot of any accuracy on a remodeling project. For instance, especially on a second story addition, you obviously have to provide structure for the second story. That's got to come through the existing first story to get to the foundation. So how much of the square footage of the existing first story are you affecting as you try to add the second story space? And is that included in the cost per square foot? The other thing about cost per square foot in a remodeling project is there's certain areas of the home that are on a cost per square foot basis much higher than other areas. For example, if you take a small powder bathroom or a hall bathroom or something like that, there's every single trade imaginable in there. So you got versus like a dining room or something where there's basically paint and electrical and that's it. So next question.
Let's see. From Sarah, what is the average budget for kitchen remodel?
Yeah.
That's a tough one too, right? Average. I mean, we've done kind of kitchen refresh, just painting cabinets or changing countertops, which maybe start in the kind of $40,000 to $45,000 range. We've done full kitchen remodels where we're blowing out a wall and creating indoor-outdoor space in the $180,000 to $200,000 range. So really broad range of projects and price ranges. It's something if you want to maybe I'm actually here in the office today, so if you want to give me a call, we can talk a little bit about your specific project and talk through the details, kind of what you're looking for. It'll be a little bit easier for me to narrow that budget range down for you.
Next one.
Our next question. So do permit requirements vary by city?
Slightly. Certain more so than the requirements vary is how everything is packaged and presented to them. That varies more than the codes. Most municipalities, with a few exceptions, use the same national codes.
All right, next question. Is there a price range for second floor, 2,500 square foot rebuild, standard, nothing too elaborate? Let's see.
I know it's based on.
I know it will vary based on finishes, but I've met with a few, and it ranges from 600,000 to 1.2 million. That's new construction. Sounds like a two-story new construction, 2,500 square foot.
Yeah, that's a big range. And the reason that you're getting such a wide range, basically that's 100% variance, is because there's no details for the project, is my guess. It's very hard to say, here, I want to put 2,500 square feet of construction. How much about is that going to cost me? Well, it depends on a lot of factors. Number one, the design. I guess the beauty of the design build methodology is there's many ways of creating the same or very similar kinds of outcomes. Some of those ways are very expensive. Others are much more cost conscious. So through the design build method, what we're really trying to do is value engineer. How do we get the most bang for your buck? So I guess that's probably the best way to answer that question, other than maybe speaking directly with myself or Beth, so we can go through some specifics.
Next question is, are you also able to handle hardscape, driveways, sidewalks, patios? Yes, we do pretty much anything you can think of to do to a house, inside or outside. The only thing we don't do is softscape, so landscape. So we can design and build the planters for you. We just don't tell you what to put in them. We do outdoor kitchens, patios, driveways. Yeah, pretty much everything you can think of. Next question. Oh, I love this one because I don't like texture on walls either. But my walls have texture and I hate them. Hate it. It's throughout the home and dates it to the early 90s. How do you get rid of this? Does it require new drywall? So I'll let you take that one.
So in most cases, it does not require new drywall. What we can do, and we do this quite frequently with projects, is it's called a skim coat. Essentially, you're taking a very thin drywall mud and kind of layering it over the entire wall surface to take away some of the texturing. Sometimes that can be done in 1 or 2 coats. Other times it takes 3 or 4 coats.
That was a good question, though. Let's see. What is the average budget for a small bathroom remodel for a do-it-yourself with some help from CDC? So I guess this is kind of a two-part question. Average budget, we'll use kind of the 5x8 standard tub shower at the end with the toilet and the vanity, right? It's a very typical kind of guest room, bathroom. I would say for those, taking everything out, putting all new things back in, you're probably somewhere in the $30,000 to $45,000 range, depending on materials. And if we have to upgrade any of the plumbing or electrical for older homes, we usually have to upgrade electrical to meet current code. As far as the kind of do-it-yourself with some help from CDC, I guess the difference between us and more of a typical way of doing projects is we do everything under one roof. So we design and build the project, we plan it as well. We don't design anything that we don't build, and we typically don't build things that we don't design either. It's kind of how the whole business model came to be, right? It avoids the miscommunication, the finger pointing. It's really keeping it all under one roof, make sure that we're all on the same page. Next one. I'm interested in starting the design process to get some ideas on what a whole house remodel would look like, but may not want to start construction for a year or two. How would you handle this type of situation? It's actually very common for a lot of our clients. They really just want to kind of start the planning and designing now. Quite honestly, depending on the scope of a whole house remodel, there really could be, a year of planning. I mean, I have some projects that are whole home remodels, adding second stories, that with the planning and permitting process, it really does take about a year. So what we would do is start designing and planning the project now. The only thing to keep in mind that, if it's, 2, 3, 5 years down the line, the cost might change a little bit, but we can definitely start planning the project now. In fact, I would encourage that. Yep. Let's see, next question. Do you have experience with remodeling projects for customers that live out of the state? If so, how would you work through the process with those situations? We actually don't work out of our geographic area, which is kind of the beach cities area, more of the west side of Los Angeles. We really feel like we need to keep that fairly narrowed down for our project managers to be able to manage the projects the way we like them to. We like them to, get there once, maybe a couple times a day. And if we spread that geographic area a little too thin, it makes it a little bit difficult to manage a project for clients.
And also, depending on where the out-of-state project is, we do have relationships with a number of companies around the country, and if you happen to be in one of their geographic areas, we could certainly, at least make an introduction to you. All right.
Can the PowerPoint deck be emailed to everyone? I think we're actually recording this webinar, so Alicia can send the recorded webinar.
Yep. Let's see.
Next question. I need to replace my windows as part of my remodel. I'd like to change the type of windows, sliders to French doors, new double hung windows. There are a total of 10 windows, including 3 large sliding doors. Am I restricted to replacement windows?
Well, that's a simple one. The short answer is no, you're not. And that's very common with sort of a whole house remodeling project where we do change windows and doors, and you don't necessarily have to do replacement windows. You can do new construction type windows.
Oh, here we go. Okay. And looks like this might be getting on to our last one. Let's see. Once a contract is signed and project is agreed upon, can you make minor changes, add-ons later while construction remodel is being done? But I'll let you take that one.
So again, the short answer to that question is yes. And it does happen through the course of the project. Typically, we get things like, as long as you're here, can you also do, this piece of the work as well? So the answer is yeah, that can all be handled by a separate addendum.
And clarification, this is good for the out-of-state work. So CJ wrote that to clarify, his home is in Santa Monica, but he's out of state. So that we can do. Yes, that we can do. We've done that many times actually, even with clients who live on the other side of the world. So now, especially now, we're really good practice with all this virtual and Zoom meeting and things like that. So it's pretty easy to have design meetings, screen sharing and talking through drawings. So that's not a problem at all. We can definitely, if the home is here and the client is out of state, we can definitely do that.
Yeah. And that holds true through the construction phase of the project also. Our project managers will typically walk through the project and use FaceTime and kind of connect that way and sort of show you what the process is and what the progress is for that weekly homeowner meeting. So yeah, that's very doable.
Yeah, we're even doing that right now for our clients that aren't living in their homes and aren't as comfortable kind of meeting in person. We're doing virtual homeowner meetings, that weekly homeowner meeting that I talked to you about. So Santos will do a FaceTime tour of the home and kind of talk through the progress of the job that way.
Great.
Any other questions? And if you think of a question later, like Bill mentioned earlier, you can, let's see, we can put our contact information back up there. Feel free to give us a call or shoot us an email. You could also, I know you have Alicia's email address, so it might even be easier if you just want to reply to Alicia's email and let her know that you want one of us to reach out to you. We can definitely do it that way too.
And there's everyone's direct phone numbers and direct emails. So I want to say thank you, everybody, for taking the time to spend a little bit of time with us. It's been a pleasure. And please reach out to us if you have any questions or any follow-up information that you'd like to talk about a project with.
Enjoy your weekend. Go as outside as you can and enjoy this 80-degree weather.